Welcome to part three of naming young global leaders and other Australians tied to the World Economic Forum. Before I pick up where we left off in part two, I want to tell you about a young global leader who is originally from the UK, but he currently lives and works here in Australia. Stephen Kane is the CEO of the Coles Group. He's a World Economic Forum young global leader from the class of the year 2000. He was appointed as the CEO of Coles in 2018. He also held the position as Group Managing Director for Coles from 2003 to 2005. Stephen is also a co-founder for Going Green. He established this company in 2003. Going Green is Europe's largest retailer of electric vehicles and also the first vehicle retailer to sell online without showrooms and provide mobile servicing. Stephen is very passionate about the climate change agenda and sustainability, so much so that he and fellow young global leader James Moody sent out a book to over 3,000 CEOs worldwide back in early 2008 on behalf of the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leaders program. The book was entitled The Book of Love, and it urged companies to cut carbon emissions and use environmentally friendly messages in their branding. It basically told them that if they don't get on board with the climate change cult, then there won't be room for their companies in the future. Prior to Stephen's role as the CEO of Coles, he worked for several World Economic Forum organizations, such as Bain and Company. He was educated at INSEAD, Harvard Business School, and London Business School. On the Coles website, there is now a section for sustainability. And looking through this, it seems pretty obvious that they are very much in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, so the SDGs. But in case you're in doubt, have a look through their downloadable PDF. So they have a whole PDF explaining how they're going to fulfill the UN's SDGs. I have to laugh at the better together hogwash. So they constantly put zero in bold and better, together, 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 better. It's all just so repetitive. And they say it's, all about working together for the greater good, zero emissions, zero waste, zero hunger. We're supposed to believe that they can achieve zero on all of these things. And it's for the community, the group, the 17 pillars, the 17 commandments of the United Nations Bible. So picking up where I left off in part two, there was one more Australian young global leader in the class of 1997, and that was Chris B. Leptos. So Chris has been a senior partner with KPMG, which I covered in detail in part two. So he's currently on the Business and Economics Board at the University of Melbourne, with people like John Brumby, former Treasurer and Premier of Victoria, and also Lord Mayor Sally Capp. She's also held senior roles at KPMG, and also Naomi Simpson. So she's the founder of Red Balloon, and she also worked for KPMG. Now, Chris also worked for Ernst & Young, who are also a World Economic Forum partner organization like KPMG, and they now do business under the name EY. And coincidentally, two other Melbourne University board members also held senior positions at Ernst & Young. So there was Annette Kimmett. She held a range of senior roles with them. And Gloria Go, who is a retired partner of Ernst & Young. And then we have James Riyadi. He's an Indonesian businessman and a billionaire. So you may wonder, what the heck is an Indonesian billionaire businessman doing on the board of Melbourne University? Well, for one, he is a young global leader from the first class in 1993. And in case you haven't watched my video on the Young Global Leaders class of 1993, James is the CEO of the Lippo Group, and that is a major Indonesian conglomerate. So he is one of the most prominent Chinese Indonesian businessmen. He is the son of Mokhtar Riyadi, who founded the Lippo Group and was an Indonesian financial magnate. So the Lippo Group is, of course, a World Economic Forum partner as well. And James's son, John Riyadi, he's also a young global leader. He was in the class of 2018, and he's also a World Economic Forum agenda contributor. So the Riyadi family are billionaires and one of the richest families in Indonesia. And speaking of billionaires, on a side note, Rupert Meyer is also on the board of Melbourne Uni, and he's a member of the Meyer family, who are the fifth wealthiest family in Australia. And you may or may not be surprised to learn that on the Melbourne Uni website, you will find the PDF entitled The Fourth Industrial Revolution by Klaus Schwab. Yes, this is on the Melbourne Uni website in the law section. I wonder how it got there. So back to Chris. He holds many positions across many sections of our society, aside from being on the board of Melbourne University with his World Economic Forum buddies. He is also currently serving as the Food and Grocery Code Independent Reviewer for the Australian Government, which is the person who oversees the dispute resolution process between food and grocery suppliers and major retailers or wholesalers. So Chris is also the Director of IDP Education, which is an international education organisation that coordinates student placement in not only Australia, but also New Zealand, the USA, Canada, the UK, and Ireland. It was founded in 1969 and its headquarters are in Melbourne. He was also appointed by the federal government in 2020 to conduct an independent review of the National Housing Finance and Investment Corporation Act. He is also the chairman of the National Heart Foundation, a governor of the Smith family, and a member of the Advisory Council of AsiaLink, which is the Australia-China Environmental Cooperation in a Hyperconnected World. Chris Leptos, without a doubt, is a major cog in the agenda, holding a variety of integral roles. He's been a very busy man. And he also, like many of these World Economic Forum members here in Australia, he was honoured as a member of the Order of Australia. He was the Deputy Chairman of Linking Melbourne Authority, the LMA, that was established in 2010 by the Brax government, with the sole task to oversee complex road projects on behalf of the government. It managed the East Link and the Peninsula Link, and he was also the General Manager of Corporate Development for Western Mining Corporation. He's lived and worked in Jakarta, Shanghai, Toronto, Tokyo, and London. But that's not all. He is also a senior advisor for Flagstaff Partners. I actually thought he left in 2019, but he's still listed here. They are a huge company and also advise on government privatizations, especially asset sales and public-private partnership transactions. No conflict of interest there, which brings me to the class of 1998. So next to Chris here on the senior advisors page, we have young global leader of the class of 1998, Peter Costello. So Peter Costello, for those who don't know who he is, I'm sure most of you would, he is the former Treasurer of Australia. He served in that role from 96 until 2007. And he actually was the longest serving Treasurer in Australia. And he's been on the board of Nine Entertainment since 2013. And then in 2016, he became chairman of the board. You should also go to Peter Costello's website because there's some interesting stuff on there. So there you can find a transcript of an interview that he did with a journalist on that fateful day in Melbourne back in the year 2000, September the 11th, when he was a speaker at the World Economic Forum at the Crown Casino, where over 10,000 people were there to protest against the World Economic Forum's influence on our country. They were there to protest against globalization, the loss of sovereignty, and the impact of foreign debt. They were met with an aggressive police response, and many reported that they were victims of police brutality. Pepper spray was used against them, although at the time in Victoria, pepper spray was not permitted to be used at police demonstrations or by police at demonstrations. And if you don't know about this event, you should look it up. And just going back to the Flagstaff Partners page, further up the page under the senior leadership team, you'll also find Charles Good. Now, Charles is on the ADC Advisory Council with Peter Costello's brother, Tim Costello. So if you don't know what the ADC Forum is, it is the Australian Davos Connection, the Australian arm of the World Economic Forum. And I recommend you watch part 2 if you haven't seen it, where I go into a lot more detail. So that concludes part 3. Stay tuned for part 4.